This presentation is part of the 2020 annual meeting of the Wisconsin Geologic Mapping Advisory Committee. I'm Elmo Rawling, one of the geologists at the Wisconsin Geologic and Natural History Survey. I'll be presenting about the Great Lakes Geologic Mapping Coalition projects, including a summary of our current projects and the proposal for upcoming projects. My email is listed here if you want to contact me about further information, and my co-PI is Eric Carson. The objectives of the Great Lakes Geologic Mapping Coalition include advancing our understanding of the three-dimensional distribution of the glacial, periglacial, and proglacial deposits that overlie the bedrock of the glaciated Midwest. We have been working in Bayfield and Jefferson counties, highlighted in red here, to do 1 to 100,000 scale mapping of the Quaternary deposits. This map also shows other areas where we've been mapping, including the driftless area in yellow, and areas that have been mapped are in gray. The orange areas include some older mapping by Lee Clayton that were conducted at 1 to 250,000 scale. Coalition funding runs from September through September. So at the time of this recording, we have just delivered preliminary maps for Bayfield and Jefferson County. In Bayfield County, you can see here, we have mapped approximately the northern third of the county. The colors at this distance, what you can see clearly are blues, some orange areas, and then some reddish pink and green areas. The blue areas are the Miller Creek Formation, so very clayey, red tills and lake sediment. The oranges are beaches of some of that lake sediment, so sandier, more well-sorted shorelines of Glacial Lake Duluth and other glacial lakes. And then in pink and green, those are Copper Falls Formation, very sandy tills or other glacial deposits, as well as very well sorted sand and gravels of the pink outwash areas. This is just a map showing the areas where we have observed natural and man-made exposures to document that mapping. And for future mapping, we will be using Forest Service funding that we have received recently to continue the mapping effort in Bayfield County, as well as other areas where there is not 1 to 100,000 scale mapping for the national forest lands. And in this case, what you're seeing in yellow are quadrangles that have been mapped with the Great Lakes Coalition funding. In orange are areas that were previously mapped by Lee Clayton at 250,000 scale, but that we will map at 1 to 100,000 scale for the Forest Service. And then in blue, in Sawyer and Price County, are areas where there is no previously available Quaternary maps. In Jefferson County, Libby Ives, a graduate student at UW-Milwaukee, and I recently delivered to the USGS complete coverage of the county for the Quaternary. That was funded in the southern part of the county by the coalition, and in the northern part of the county, the funding was from the Geologic survey itself. Here at this scale, and what you can see just briefly, are areas of blue where glacial lake scuppernong deposits are found. These are very silty and silty clay rich sediments that are laminated, contain carbon. We were able to find several areas where we were able to radiocarbon date some of this. Greens are areas where there are glacial deposits, many streamline landforms like drumlins and flutes, as well as the darker green banding that you can see in the middle of the map are the Lake Mills moraine system. And then in pinks and reds, those are areas of outwash, either associated with the Green Bay lobe, and then possibly in the southeast corner associated with the Michigan lobe in the southern Kettle Moraine. The mapping here was based on 48 geoprobe borings. The distribution is shown here. And again, 4 radiocarbon ages from some of those. And we are currently working on completing that plate and a publication, a report publication for submission to the WGNHS later in 2020. As I mentioned, the Great Lakes Coalition funding is on a September to September cycle. So those maps, Jefferson and Bayfield counties, were the previous round of funding that we just finished and delivered to USGS. and we are now, as of this recording, 3 days into the new project that was approved by the committee last year. And so to refresh the committee's memory on what they approved last year, we propose to switch from mapping with the coalition funds to get a handle more on the three-dimensional element of the Quaternary deposits in areas where that is appropriate by using this money for rotosonic borings. And what the committee approved last year was targeting 4 areas where we know, based on previous mapping, that we have the potential to not only have deep deposits, things that are deeper than what we can map with or core with geoprobe coring, but also the potential for paleoenvironmental records that might increase our understanding of the Quaternary in Wisconsin. Those 4 areas include the driftless area in dark blue there with number 1 on it, the central sands with the lighter green area with number 2 on it, the Lake Superior region, which is the number 3 and light blue, and then the Scuppernong Basin in Jefferson and Dodge County, number 4. So we are just starting the planning of that, given that the funding just started a few days ago, and our current goal is to work in the driftless area. There are 2 areas where we know there is carbon and sediment deeper than we can reach with geoprobe drilling based on Eric Carson's long efforts to map there with state map funding from USGS. And these include the West Baraboo Basin and tributaries of the Wisconsin and Mississippi River. And as I mentioned, we have essentially 2 sites in mind, but we are waiting for crop to come off of the fields as well as landowner permissions, which I'll be seeking in the next few weeks. So we're hoping to conduct this drilling in the November timeframe. In addition to the funding we received from the coalition for mapping and drilling, there was a supplemental call, and we received funding to produce a 1 to 500,000 scale map/database of bedrock elevation for the whole state of Wisconsin. This map shows our current understanding of the depth to bedrock in Wisconsin, at least in a published format for the whole state. This is from Trotta and Cotter in 1973. And one of the disadvantages of this map is we don't know what data they use to produce it. However, again, it is the current published statewide database. There are lots of other databases that the Wisconsin Geologic and Natural History Survey have either published or compiled for other projects that attempt to generate a model of the bedrock elevation or the depth to the bedrock. These are in different databases. They are largely based on well construction reports and outcrop information and shallow soils, as well as some geophysical surveys. But again, they're in many different databases and were generated for many different projects at different scales. The benefit of this project is we will compile all of this into one database. We'll generate a map at 1 to 500,000 scale for the whole state and a database for the whole state at that scale or finer scales if the data are available, as well as providing a place for all future data regarding depth of bedrock or bedrock elevation to be collected. This will be largely run by Matt Raywald and Pete Shopshister. And again, this has just started, so we don't really have any results to share yet. Our future coalition project will return to Bayfield County, where we hope to leverage existing U.S. Forest Service funds with new Great Lakes Coalition funds to target a 300 or more foot boring in Bibbin Marsh, shown here with a star. This is an area where there is reports of up to 500 feet of Quaternary sediments, including this bedrock depth of bedrock map recently published by the Geologic Survey, as well as Bear Creek mining records, which show the overburden here from 0 to 520 feet, and hopefully for us won't be abandoned because of impossible drilling conditions. The coalition requires approval of any projects by the Geologic Mapping Advisory Committee. So the action item here that we need today is a vote to approve the continued rotosonic sampling collection of Quaternary sediment in the targeted areas. And we are continuing to propose 4 target areas. In case for some reason the Bibb and Marsh site is not available, then we could move to, say, the Scuppernong area. For example, if COVID continues, we may need to do this in a place where we can reach the site in a day rather than having overnight trips. But again, our intention is to work in Bibb and Marsh and Bayfield County with this funding because we can capitalize on some funding from the Forest Service as well as the coalition to get a deeper boring. And so hopefully the committee will approve that. Again, there's my email. I'm Elmo at the Geologic and Natural History Survey. If you wish to contact me about any of these projects, please feel free to.